Hi, everyone. I'm Jenna Paone. Welcome to a Mighty Blazes Celebrity Conversations Thursday. I'm so excited today. We have two fabulous best-selling novelists with us, Darin Strauss and Nancy Starr. And I almost just said your names in the reverse order. I almost said Darin Starr and Nancy Strauss. And I'm going to correct that and make sure it's Darin Strauss and Nancy Starr. And I'm so thrilled to have them here. Welcome, guys. How you doing today?
Thanks, yeah.
We're doing pretty well. And we are here today celebrating Nancy's new release, Rules for Moving. Hold that up, Nancy. Oh, we're so thrilled. It's a beautiful
cover. With Darin's book over there.
Yes. And we're psyched. And we're going to go real easy on Darin today because he's a little under the weather. So we are joining him. This is a very intimate conversation today. We are joining him right where the magic happens. And we're just all thrilled about that. So welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here.
I realized I should have gone into my bedroom, really, out of respect. So.
I know, we all should be. We should be having a pajama party right now.
Got a pillow.
I feel like this should be Thursday pajama parties instead of, celebrity conversations. Celebrities in their skivvies. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, it's funny that you say where the magic happens. Usually people talk about that as a writing desk, but I'll let that stand.
Well, maybe you write in bed. We don't know. You can tell us later on.
Lap desk.
I'm going to kick things off today by introducing both of these fabulous novelists, and then I'm going to let them take it away. So first up, we have Darin Strauss. Darin Strauss is known not just for his brilliant writing and the vast scope of his imagination, but for his extreme kindness to other writers. His new novel, The Queen of Tuesday, coming August 15th, so mark your calendars, it's coming soon, is a dual biography of Lucille Ball and Darin's grandfather, both of whom were at a party, ready, and he just told us this before, and this is so fun, hosted by Fred Trump, meant for guests to gleefully demolish the building they were in. A Trump ruining something? That sounds crazy. But we aren't going to get political right now. We're just going to focus on Darin. He is the author of Chang and Eng, a runner-up for the Barnes & Noble Discover Award, the Literary Lions Award, and a nominee for the Penn Hemingway Award. Chang and Eng was a Best Book of the Year from Newsweek and the Los Angeles Times. His second novel, The Real McCoy, was a New York Times notable book and one of the 25 best books of the year from the New York Public Library. His third novel, More Than It Hurts You, was also a national bestseller, and his next book, Half a Life, was a memoir which won a 2011 National Book Critics Circle Award. You have a lot of accolades, Darin.
That was the nicest thing anyone said about me. Well, that's so great.
Word gets around. We know, we probably, to be fair, wouldn't have said it if you were a big jerk, but clearly.
Not in bed.
Yeah, you get in bed, people say nice things.
You're a trooper.
You're on your way out. You're dying. So it's like, say the nice things now.
And now we have the belle of the ball herself, Nancy Starr. Want to know about Nancy Starr's new book, Rules for Moving in a Nutshell? Listen to this rave from National Book Award finalist Julia Phillips, the author of Disappearing Earth. With Rules for Moving, Nancy Starr takes us beyond the paywall to ask what happens when our favorite internet advice columnist needs help of her own. A tender exploration of family, friendship, and what it means to be the black sheep. Ooh, very intriguing. Starr actually began her career in the movie business as an executive at the Samuel Goldwyn Company, charged with scouting books, plays, and stories to be developed for film, and writing her first book, a travel guide about tipping, and finally leaving the film world to write her thriller, Buried Lives. She published her first book, written in the wee hours of the morning while still at the Goldwyn Company. And that was the travel guide about tipping around the world. Starr wrote that book to solve her problem. On frequent trips abroad, she had no idea how much and whom to tip. Her novels included Up Next, a mystery about a TV show producer turned detective, Now This, the sequel, Carpool DM about sports and parenting, and Sisters 1, 2, 3, which is about siblings and, of course, secrets. Her work has been translated into 4 languages, optioned for television, and chosen as a Literary Guild and Mystery Guild featured selections. Her writing has appeared in the Washington Post, New York Times, Publishers Weekly, Family Circle, and Diversion magazine. Starr is a member of the Authors Guild, Women's Media Group, and Mystery Writers of America. And as she says in her official bio, as a film executive, she was a member of the Groucho Club in London. It would not mind one bit if they decided to invite her back. Welcome, Nancy. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on Rules for Moving.
Thank you.
I have been talking for a while, it seems. So, and people aren't here to listen to me. So I'm going to turn it over to you two and let Darin take away the conversation so we can discuss this fabulous book and celebrate you properly.
Okay,
Go ahead, Darin.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having us here. This Mighty Blaze has really been a shining light beacon for all the writers who have been publishing during this time. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, really, thank you guys. And thanks, Nancy, for talking with me here. I found the idea for this book so clever. The fact that the advice columnist is now in trouble. Where'd you come up with that idea? It's such a great premise for a book.
Well, thanks. You know, I was playing around with a lot of ideas. One of them is the difference between how we present, how people present, and how they really feel. And I think that for many people, you can be really great at your job and comfortable at your job and well-known and beloved at your job and still feel like an outsider other than, and that's the kind of, that's what I was really interested in. I've had a couple of experiences myself where one of them I just recently was talking about, where I was mistaken for an abductor of a child, actually is what happened, yes. And a similar thing happened to my husband, so it's really weird. We've both had this experience, if you can believe it. So for me, and this is years ago, I did not abduct a child, but I did a favor for a mom when my younger kid was in middle school, mother-daughter book group. The mother asked if I would take her daughter to book group with us because she couldn't come. And when I brought the girl home, there were police cars all in front of her house, neighbors outside, and I pulled over and police surrounded me. And what became apparent shortly thereafter was that someone had called in a report of a girl getting in a car with a strange lady. So I was the strange lady. And it was all figured out pretty quickly, but there were a few moments where I thought, like, what if I really overreacted, which I might have. I was pretty freaked out. Or my car was beat up or had different plates. It could have gone a different way. And it was really stuck in my mind for such a long time, about the thin layer between being accepted and being seen as other. So those kind of ideas came together, and there we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
One thing that I was struck by is, I mean, it deals with serious issues, like I mean, I don't want to give too much away, but the protagonist's husband died.
Early end.
What do you say?
I said he comes to an early end. So
yeah, suddenly is no longer.
Yeah.
But and so there's this woman and her little son, and she's alone with all that drama, but it's written about with real humor. And I was wondering, was that hard to write about something so intensely powerful and not do it, not give it short shrift? So acknowledge how hard it is, but also keep the sense of humor and the lightness that makes the book really a fun read. And so was that a real struggle?
Thank you so much. You know, I think I've always seen the world through those lenses of humor and, you know, the serious struggles. And I was thinking about this recently because somebody asked me about this, you know, the seminal books of my youth. And growing up, one of my favorite books, I mean, as a teenager, I guess it was Catch-22. And that, like, and it kind of shocked me, that book, that it could be a book about war, but hilariously funny. And I've just always loved that combination, because that's really, to me, what life is. We've got the heartache and you better laugh. And it's a balancing act, but yes, but thank you. I'm glad that you felt that way.
Yeah. And you mentioned just now your husband.
Yeah. Well,
what did you say?
I said, oh, because yes, go ahead.
Well, you said he was also.
Yes, he had a similar experience, strangely.
Yeah. And so when people have different processes when they write, I kind of hate the word process. People have different methods when they write. Some people are like method actors. Some people can just sort of turn on and off the emotions and focus on the craft. I was wondering, this is a book about a troubled marriage, and then the husband dies. Is that hard to be in that mindset and then go back to your husband and live your life?
I feel like I should go get him, because maybe he's watching on a different room. Well, I will just say that in my first novel, I accidentally, this really will answer your question, I accidentally named, it was a psychological suspense novel, and there were a series of changes of names of characters. I don't know if you do that a lot, Darin, but I've been known to do that a lot. And somewhere along the way, I had a main character end up with the name Lanny, and my husband's name is Larry, and I didn't notice that. And in fact, the novel was published in German with a typo on the back cover, so it literally was Larry.
Funny.
I did not feel like I was Lane, and her husband was certainly nothing like my husband, so I never had that. I never had that feeling of I'm intruding. I've felt it more whenever I write about kids. My kids are grown, but that's always when they're little. You can kind of, there was always someone in a novel with their name, but as they became into full and adult humans, I'm kind of pretty cautious with that. And they might be watching and saying, no, she's not. So.
Do they read your stuff? Because I have kids I have identical twin boys who are 12, and they say they never want to read my stuff ever. But the funny thing is, this tells you something about the writing life. My kids were in kindergarten, in 2 separate kindergarten classes, and the teacher said, to both of them, it was career day, and the teachers in each class said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And independent of each other, without any prompting, they both said, I don't know, but I know I don't want to be a writer.
So hilarious.
So,
it's funny because I have this really clear memory when my older daughter was in kindergarten, when they had to do this survey of, I guess the teacher was trying to figure out if they lived in a home where literacy was happening. And so one of the questions they asked, in addition to are there books in the home, is, do you ever see anybody writing in the home? And my daughter wrote, yes. My mom writes shopping lists or grocery lists. And I realized, of course, because I'm not writing novels while she's sitting next to me, even though, sometimes the New York Times had an article about working from home, toddler at your side. But, I've always been like going into the farthest corner and closing the door and all that. But they do, certainly now, one of my daughters is 32, one's 29. They're my biggest fans. But I also had the experience years ago when hardly anybody reviewed on Amazon, like nobody, except Harriet Klausner, this librarian lady who, if she found you, she'd review, and that was it. And I went for some reason to one of my oldest books, and I looked at a comment that one reviewer had written, and there was a little sign on the bottom that's a note that said, you may not comment on your own comment. And I read the note. The comment was really weird. It said something like, I never liked reading till I read this book, and now I love it. And it was a little bit misspelled. And my younger daughter was in another room, and I was like, get in here, did you write this? So yes, I had a family.
That's really sweet.
She was like 8 years old. It was really funny.
That's really sweet, yeah. Do you have any questions from?
Well, I have a question now, listening to you too, that, I'm hearing you talk about your families, and clearly you both have multiple children and long and storied writing careers. And I'm interested to hear, and I think a lot of people that are watching would be interested to hear how it was, Nancy, I know your kids are grown now, but how was it balancing, and for you, Darin, currently, how is it balancing that family life versus the writing life? And, I know it changes, I'm sure, as kids get older. But I'd be interested to hear you guys both talk a little bit about that, and whether you think that being a parent, influenced your writing at all, or changed how you wrote or what you wrote about. Just interested in hearing a little bit about that balance.
Nancy, you should go first. It's your event. So.
Well, I will say from, kind of down the road that I can write now. Can write 7, and usually do write 7 days a week, and for as long as I can physically be in a chair. And I look back and think, how did I ever write before? I have no idea, because you can really get so deeply into a book if the fewer distractions you have. I wouldn't have had it any other way. But I think, and I'm sure, Darin, that you will agree with this, you just carve out the time. And having children, just breaks open your heart in yet another way. So that can only be good for your work.
Yeah, that's really well said. I think it changes, as you said. It was not so bad before lockdown. And
Oh
so,
yeah.
I haven't done as much writing. My one kid's in this room and one kid's in that room right now. I have, in the beginning we did some homeschooling, and I thought, well, I teach writing at NYU as well, so I thought I'll teach writing. So I taught a class, and the first thing I said to my son was, okay, what do you guys, or my sons, I said, what do you guys think makes a good character? Because, a good teacher asks questions. And my son said, what are you asking us for? You're supposed to be the teacher. So I thought, okay, it's harder to teach my kids than college students.
Yeah.
But well, I wanted to ask another question about your book, Nancy, because I think your book is really fun and should be read. So let's talk about Rules for Moving. You had said in the intro that you had books optioned for TV shows, and I felt like this seems very cinematic or very telematic. I don't know what you'd say. I could really see it as either a movie or a TV show. And so when you're writing, do you have
Mother-daughter book group? Whoa.
What do you say?
I'm hearing an echo of myself.
Oh, that was you. Okay, I didn't know that was a weird note.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just curious if when you're writing, do you see, okay, this would be a good scene in a movie or TV show? Because it seems like a very fun book, but also it would be a very fun and engaging Hollywood project.
Well, thank you. I'm ready. You can reach me, Nancy Starr, author.com. I do see my stories as scenes when I'm writing. I'm kind of writing the movie in my brain, and I don't know I know that writers see their work all different ways, but I do tend to think in terms of scenes, and I don't consciously. I have kind of, probably from working in the movie business, developed a kind of sense of the rhythm of a scene, but maybe that's why. But that's lovely for you to say. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and do you have touchstones in mind when you write? I mean, sometimes I couldn't figure out how to structure my first book, which Jenna was kind enough to mention, Chang and Ang. It's a weird book about conjoined twins, and it starts when they were babies and it ends when they die, but their life changed so much in the middle that I thought the book would be so different. And then I was watching Godfather 2, and I realized I could structure it like that. So do you, like with this book, was there any sort of touchstone or thing that really helped you figure out how to structure it or write it or anything, or character in any sort of insight into characters from something else? Because I always feel like it's great to find something to help you.
Yeah, I think that in terms of the structure, I mean, I find that as I go along, and I know that there are people who map it all out or figure out the structure first, and I'm not one of them. I just have something I'm curious about, and I move toward it, and at some point the structure occurs to me, and then there's a ton of going back. I have a lot of writers who I read again and again. I love Elizabeth Strout, and I love Philip Roth, and I love John Irving. There was a time I read a lot of John Irving because he really kept making me cry, and I was really curious to see what was happening every time I cried. So I do look at things specifically like that. But other than that, it's just that trying to write what's true to a character, even in a situation that's, and I'm sure even when you were writing not your very first book, even in a situation that's really extraordinary or historical, that's really what you're still going for, the truth of the moment and the character.
Sure, yeah, but yes, absolutely. I just feel like sometimes it helps to have a model to get me there. I mean, it's funny. I remember reading about, not reading, actually, a friend of mine, David Lipsky, the writer, told me the story about Orson Welles. So Orson Welles, when he was hired to write Citizen Kane, he'd never written a movie before. Mm-hmm. And so he rented a movie theater, mm-hmm. and the best film up to that point was Stagecoach. And so he thought, whatever the greatest movie ever is, I'm going to watch that and figure out how it works. So he watched that movie hundreds of times, back to back to back, with a notebook, and just would watch it, write down, oh, this made me cry, or this made me. So it's kind of what you're saying. And I think that that's a way really to learn how to do something, is just keep watching it or keep reading it and over, figure out, not some people read 1 million books and that's what they learn to write. Or some people, you pick one thing and you read it over and over and you figure out, how can I crack this code?
Yeah, well, for me, I know that there are a few writers, I do read them again and again. And I think mostly when I'm creating a story, I try to only read books that I know that I'll love by writers that I know that I love.
Mhm.
And the first time that I read it, I will be reading it as a reader, and then I'll read it again as a writer to see how'd that happen. And I don't think there's any better way, except of course a great professor of writing who asks you how to write a character.
Yeah, right. I haven't, I'm embarrassed to say I haven't read Olive Kitteridge. I know people love that book. Is that a favorite of yours?
I love Olive Kitteridge. I loved The Burgess Boys. The Burgess Boys was, many of Elizabeth Strout's books they have a secret in them, a family secret. What I especially love that she does, though, is she's very spare. There's a lot of empty space. She doesn't tell you everything, but she gives you lots of clues, and you really understand her character so deeply. So, I have not met a book of hers that I haven't loved and read many times.
Have you met her?
Just, there was a party after the story prize, and after party, I said hello to her. I was completely tongue-tied.
Yeah, I think it's really, I've been lucky enough to meet a few people I really admired, and sometimes it's a drag because, you don't like them in person. I won't give any names, but some writers I really admired. I was disappointed. Although I actually find most writers to be quite nice.
So have I, and believe me, she is lovely. It was more, of me feeling like blah, 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 that she just seemed extremely lovely.
Mm-hmm.
But it is always hard to meet. See, that's like Lane Meckler, not to go back to the book, but that's what happens to her every day. People fall in love with her column, and then they meet her and they're like, ugh, she's not at all like her column. And she's well aware of that. And so she tries to kind of limit real interactions for exactly that reason. Did you ask me that question so I could say that answer?
But did you do a lot of research? Did you interview, in that way, did you interview columnists? Did you read a lot of advice columns?
Well, first of all, I did write a letter to Dear Abby when I was 13 years old, which I really can't believe I did, but I actually did. And I was.
Did she respond?
What?
Did she respond?
She did, but it was a problem I was having at school, which says something about my growing up, that's who I went to for advice. And the problem was that, I'll tell you, the problem was that my earth science teacher wouldn't let me wear a political button, but he was wearing a United Federation of Teachers button, and I didn't think that was fair. So I wrote to Dear Abby in the fall, and in August, I got a letter back. So I was way out of that class, and I was simultaneously annoyed and thrilled because I had been heard,
Yeah.
This famous lady read my thing. But there was one advice columnist who was incredibly gracious and gave me a lot of information. And she told me a lot of great stories, including something that really stuck with me for the entire time I was writing the novel, of a moment she had in her hometown where she met a young woman who said to her, on the sly, "Do you remember the letter that was blah, 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 blah? That was me." And so a lot of there are letters woven throughout the novel. Some of them start out kind of snarky and funny and get a little bit more poignant as Lane herself gets some more self-knowledge. But the letters that are woven really all could be connected to various people in the novel if you wanted to look for that. Because I love that idea of you really don't know who, as an advice columnist, you really don't know who your letters are from.
Yeah. Did you read Miss Lonely Hearts, the Daniel West book? It was a great novel of until now the greatest novel about the advice columnists.
Yeah. Have you read it lately?
Not lately. I read it.
Yeah. I read it and I was like, oh, I didn't remember it like this at all. But
did it hold up? Did you?
It's a little creepy.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You see, when I wrote about conjoined twins, I found out that Nabokov, one of my favorite writers, or Nabokov if you're pretentious, wrote about conjoined twins, and I didn't read it because I thought it will mess me up. So I thought maybe you read it after or something, because you want to be influenced, I think, but you don't want to be like a great book about the same thing. Like
no,
I like that book, but I'm not Nabokov, so that would be.
Yeah, no, I felt exactly the same way. I felt like I really should read this. Really, I should ask a dear friend to read it and tell me, can I read it? But
Right.
I kind of read it like keeping it far away. And then I was like, oh, okay, it's not a problem. But yeah, you do have to be careful in both directions. You don't want to read anything trashy, bad, but you don't want to read anything that you feel you might absorb too much.
Do you recommend it?
What?
But he said it's creepy, but is it?
I don't know if I don't.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, as a curiosity to read it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't, I would have to read it yet again. I read it probably 4 years ago, but I feel like in the Me Too and the aftermath of Me Too, we would read it in a different way.
Wow. Yeah, I read it in the 90s. So
Yeah. So anything went.
Yeah, we're talking about, for those watching, we're talking about Nathaniel West's Miss Lonely Hearts. But so getting back to Rules for Moving, you said you read it 4 years ago. How long did it take you to write this book?
I was 3 years.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to write a book?
It really varies. This one took me a long time. I think it's because it's about my grandfather. But it's gone from like 5-6 years to a year and a half. So it depends.
Right. I've had that experience too. I can't wait to read your book. The book sounds fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I'll give it a plug. It's called
yeah.
It's called The Queen of Tuesday. It's coming out in August, and it's about Lucille Ball and my grandfather and their passionate sexual affair. So.
And
yeah.
Nancy, that must appeal to you with your film background and everything. That just like sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster to me.
Sounds like a definite movie or limited series for sure.
That would be good.
So you know, away from anything about the advice columnists, we do have a question from a viewer, specifically for you, Nancy, about advice columnists. One of our viewers wants to know if you've had any advice from columnists, and if any of the columnists have had a chance to read your book, and if so, what has their response been?
Yes, I'm waiting for that. You know, the book was going in a big mailing out to advice columnists everywhere, and then COVID came, and then nobody really, you know, the advice columnists were busy giving life and, you know, COVID life advice. And I feel like I want to have a whole new chapter to the book of COVID advice, because I know exactly the kind of advice that my character would be giving right now. It's like so internalized. I walk down a path in a park and I'm like, I know what Lane would say to that guy.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think, you know, yeah, we don't want to complain in this time because people are really suffering.
Yeah.
But it's hard to publish a book now. You know, you work on something for 3 years and, you know, you have a marketing plan and a book tour or whatever. And then, so, you know, I think I think it's really great that you guys are doing this
A Mighty Blade
series, because I think it gives writers like Nancy a chance to get the word out.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, that's our hope.
Really, for Caroline Levin and Jenna Blum and Jenna Blum and Jenna Yu and all the other people, I think it's just been a kind of a miracle. So
it's very odd that we have 2 Jennas there, because it's not the most common name. People are like, wait, which? Like, what?
Didn't I just
Jenna Blum's the co-founder. I'm just hosting this particular series here.
Do you guys know the singer? Do you guys know the singer Mike Doty? He's a solo singer. He used to be the lead singer of the band Soul Coughing. He's a Gen X guy, and he's got the perfect Gen X song, which is 27 Jennifers, and the chorus is, I rode the bus with 27 Jennifers. Like everyone was named Jennifer when I was growing up.
Well, Jenna, did you have to always say, I'm not Jennifer, I'm Jenna?
Yes, I am not a Jennifer. I am a
No, I know. Yes. No,
yes. But no, we're thrilled at Mighty Blaze to help, you know, promote everybody and to get the word out, because we understand how heartbreaking it is. As you said, you both take years to write your books. We all do as authors, and you want to celebrate. And on that note, I do want to mention, of course, that in our to all of our viewers, to everyone who's watching out there, please go buy Rules for Moving, and please buy Darin's Queen of Tuesday when it comes out in August.
You can pre-order it right now.
Yes, you can pre-order
it in a minute.
And I would also encourage you to really support independent bookstores if you're able. Nancy's favorite local bookstore Watchung Booksellers in Montclair. You can order her book from there. Nancy, are there signed copies there by any
There
chance?
are signed copies there now, but if they're not, we'll go right back and sign some more. We have like a really good contact list thing going on, and happy to do that.
Nancy will sign a book. I mean, what better thing? I always love to get a signed book from the author. Just, you know, I always feel like it's like an extra special little blessing that they put on their book that, you know, like, and you receive it. So please check them out. We will link to those bookstores, or you can also visit our partner. And Darin's favorite bookstore, Community, one of his favorite local bookstores, Community Bookstore in Park Slope, Brooklyn. I'm sure they also have Nancy's book, and I'm sure they will carry Darin's book.
And you can pre-order Darin's book.
And I'm sure they carry both Nancy and Darin's former releases right now. And if you're having trouble finding them, check out bookshop.org, which is one of our partner organizations. They do a wonderful job of selling from independent stores online. So you know you're ordering and supporting local stores as well. And the great thing is you can type in Nancy Starr or Darin Strauss right on the page, and you'll get all their releases up, so you can buy all of their books at once.
Thank you, Jenna.
That's my plug for you guys.
Okay. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Jenna. That's great.
Darin, do you have any more? Do you have maybe one or two more questions for Nancy to close this out?
Yeah. Well, what's next? Are you able to write in this environment? Are you midway in another book? Are you thinking about one?
I had started something which was I'm not sure if it's a short story or a novel, because that's sometimes what happens. And then that stopped when the lockdown came, and I did find it really hard to write. I'm really impressed with people who are just disappeared right back into their work. And I would say the only thing I wrote for the first few weeks is I heard a historian say everyone should be keeping COVID journals. And I did that, just writing down the minutia of the day, hoping I would someday forget that. And then that kind of got spaced out, you know, every day, once a week, once a month. But then I had to move right into the things that you do when you're writing, when you're releasing a novel, which is essays and Q&As, all that stuff. And that's easier to write during a pandemic for me than a novel, when you really have to tunnel in.
Yeah, I find it really hard myself to do.
For you, are you working on something new?
I was working on a novel. I put it aside. I'm trying to adapt my memoir, Half-Life, with a director for an independent movie. So we'll see what happens.
Fantastic.
Great.
I love that book.
Thank
This
you.
has been wonderful, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, really.
And I want to just celebrate one more time, say congratulations, Nancy, on Rules for Moving. Darin, we're thrilled about The Queen of Tuesday. We can't wait for it to come out.
Thank you. And yeah, everyone, please pick up Nancy's book.
Thanks, and Darin's. And Darin, feel better.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, please remember to follow both of them on social media. We'll link to their Facebook pages, their author pages, and their websites, their Instagrams, Twitters, everything that you want to find. Go say hi. Tell them that you saw the interview. I'm sure you can make a special request for Nancy to sign a book for you at some point in the future, or maybe mail you a book plate. And thank you guys so much for joining us, for supporting A Mighty Blaze, for supporting our authors. Once more, it's Rules for Moving by Nancy Starr. Congratulations. Thank you guys for being here, and we'll see you next Thursday for Celebrity Conversations.
Thanks,
guys.
Thanks, Jenna. Thanks, Darin.